I'm delighted to introduce this afternoon's guest speaker, Hugh Dunnachie. Hugh represents the very best in that he is a true fusion of wit, high-level intelligence, professionalism, and above all, humanity. Hugh started his academic life as a student of social anthropology and linguistics, little realising just how valuable these disciplines were to become as he progressed through his career towards his current job as Chief Executive of the London Borough of Hillingdon. Hillingdon is a home to Buxton University's Uxbridge campus, Heathrow Airport, of course, and a myriad of successful global and local businesses, and is one of the greenest boroughs in London with a significant historical heritage. After university, Hugh started his career as an unqualified social worker for the London Borough of Richmond upon Thames. After qualifying at the age of 25, he worked for the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead and Slough Borough Council, where he was promoted to Assistant Director of Social Services. He then became Chief Inspector and Head of Quality Assurance in Berkshire County Council and was responsible for the team that performed the first inspection of the welfare provision at some of the most well-known and illustrious public schools in the country. Hugh project managed the disaggregation of Berkshire social services during local government reorganisation in 1998, and his last job there was Deputy Director of Social Services. Before joining the London Borough of Hillingdon in November 2003 as Director of Social Services and Housing, Hugh was the Director of Housing and Social Services at Luton Borough Council. Hugh was appointed Chief Executive of Hillingdon in 2007. Hugh has demonstrated the art of the possible by combining his extensive experiential learning achievements with the highly developed skill set that is required in his current job as Chief Executive. But what lurks behind the man? Perhaps his memories of riding a motorcycle with his duffel coat and jeans during his days as a social worker during a rainstorm. I told you I'd get this. For most, this is sufferable, but for the dry, clean man only, Hugh found this a little bit too much. Hell had no fury. However, but then there's the man who loves to cook Italian food, to grow first-class veggies in his garden, and to travel widely. He's an avid reader, with no less than 4 biographical tomes in play at any one time, including Dantean Love. Hugh is also a home-loving man who shares many happy hours with his wife Jill, who in her own right is an excellent artist, competing with Hugh for studio space in the garden. But there's also the Hugh who can be found on Saturdays at Craven Cottage, supporting his beloved Fulham Football Club, and on a Saturday evening, curling up with his Nordic Gothic crime thrillers that assist him to assuage his voracious appetite for literature. Hugh has a long-standing relationship with Buxton University, having completed his mental health social work course at Newlands Park and working with our social work team at that particular time to select and supervise students for our social work courses. Hugh, we're delighted and privileged to welcome you today and look forward to your address. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Follow that, I suppose. It's a huge pleasure and an honour to be here today to add my own congratulations and appreciation to those you've already received and to be asked to speak to you on this great occasion and huge milestone in your personal and your professional lives. Firstly, though, I'd like to say a few words to your friends and families who are here with you today celebrating your many achievements. To all of you friends and family, all you mates, I'd like to say well done to you as well. I bet you're hugely proud and pleased and not a little relieved to be at the end of this stage in your relative's life. All you graduates know, though, that without the support of your mates and your families, this would have been a much tougher journey. I know from personal experience, albeit a long, long time ago, not quite in a galaxy far, far away, the amount of immense hard work that you as students have put in to produce your coursework, succeed in your practice placements, where these have been part of your course, and sit and pass examinations, often all of them on top of your job and your family commitments outside the university. For many of you, this may be the first time in your lives you've experienced such an intense period of academic and work pressure, and it's no mean achievement for you all to be sitting here today, all dressed up with your hats on, clutching your precious certificates, but rightly proud of yourselves. But to you friends and family in the audience, trust me, I know what it's like to support someone doing their degree and professional training here too. My wife did the social work course here at leafy Newland Park a long time ago, and although it was a long time ago, I can vividly remember supporting her through the considerable trials and tribulations of producing rafts of essays, I'm sure you'll know what I'm talking about, as well as the joys of placements in far-flung and exotic locations, like working in the NSPCC in Aldershot, which I recall was a bit of a walk on the wild side for us both. So, in recognition of what they've done and suffered maybe, in helping you graduates overcome all sorts of barriers and get here today, I'd like to add my appreciation to your friends and families. Well done to you guys. It must be quite a relief. That's it, give it up now. Okay, now David's told you a little bit about me. I shall get him back for that later on. And in case you were wondering who this bloke up here is in front of you, you will have heard from David that I'm a clapped-out social worker. So hi to all you social workers in the crowd there. Yeah, hey. There is life after this, okay? And I'm going to tell you all a little bit about that in a minute. I've now got a pretty senior job in local government. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Hillingdon Council, which covers Uxbridge, Heathrow, Hayes, Ruislip, West Drayton. Many of you guys may live there, certainly work there, and I'm sure all of you have passed through there if you've been to Heathrow Airport and beyond. Okay. I did a social sciences degree like you guys. I was originally a student of cultural anthropology, and in that subject I studied different societies, languages, customs, symbols, art from around our planet, and learnt or speculated about what that told us about human beings in general. You would be surprised at just how relevant that is today to work as a council boss. But if you think about it a bit, you will see that it's helped me understand and deal with differences between organisations like our pals in the police, the NHS, schools, national, local government. They have different languages, they have customs, sometimes uniforms, badges and paraphernalia. Now, why is it important to be able to understand that difference and work with it? Well, most of us are going to be or end up in the public sector. You have to work effectively together to make a real difference to our local people. That's why we're doing what we did. That's why you've done what you've done today and qualified on your courses. It's because you want to go out there and make a real difference to people. It's hugely important, therefore, that people like me, who are leaders in a particular part of that landscape, create an environment where cooperation and understanding can happen and where you can work effectively together to make a difference to the people for whom you're working. Then, after I did that course, like you, I did professional social work training. I had a few years in the field, sussing out whether, in my case, whether social work was right for me. You guys have done stuff around police work, nursing, psychology, criminology, a variety of other subjects, where you've had the opportunity to test yourselves out and evaluate whether is this the right course of action for you going forward. I think that the skills I started to acquire when I was sitting where you are today have been invaluable as I've navigated through my career, and I've used them to understand the people around me and learn to manage complex and sometimes very volatile situations and volatile organisations, actually. What I learnt in college helped me begin to understand what drives and what motivates people and how to manage relationships with understanding and sensitivity. You would be amazed at just how many people from our sorts of professional backgrounds are now high-profile players, professional leaders, academics in their field and in the public, charity and voluntary sector. The world, as they say, is your oyster, whether you choose to remain in practice or whether you climb the management tree. Now, I like being a social worker, understanding what made people tick, or at least trying to, and helping them sort their lives out, I have to say, with variable degrees of success over the years. I think many of you will know what I'm talking about. But part of the enjoyment I had in my job was about my subliminal nosiness, which wasn't really very subliminal some of the time. I'm very curious about people. I like to understand what makes people do the things that they do and to help them lead better lives. And I think that's something shared by many of you here today. You've got your own version of that sensitivity, that musicality with people. And I don't think you'd be here today stonkingly proud of what you've achieved without and being ready to make that difference out there that I talked about just now if you didn't feel something similar to that which I felt when I was in your position. Now, I talked about making a difference. I think that's something that's really important for us all, particularly in the public and non-for-profit sector. It can turn into a meaningless slogan if you trot it out too often, if you overuse it. But I think it plays a huge part in why you're all here today. You want to make that difference, and you're leaving Bucks New University today much better equipped than when you arrived. As they say in the L'Oreal advert, it's worth it, okay? Now, I've spoken already about still drawing on the lessons I learned at college today, almost 35 years after I qualified, which is a scary, scary thought. And you might be wondering what all that theory you've learnt, whether it's really got any place in your working life, and whether the skills that you've practiced will actually translate when you get out there as you embrace your new professional role and move to your next challenge. Does it have any use to you when you're out there in a tricky situation, you're trying to calm things down, striving to understand what's really going on, and starting to fix it? As you'll have gathered from what I've said before, I say a huge yes to that, but you don't always realise it at the time, and you may only twig it after the event. You've absorbed information, ideas, practical tools, intellectual gadgets here that will be buried, but they're still there and have become part of you and your professional persona. You've learnt to absorb large wads of complicated information and express yourself succinctly and with clarity. Remember all those essays that you sweated over? There was a point. It was worth it. They do make a difference later on in your life when you have to process, assimilate, and reproduce other information. So I'm sure that part of my feeling comfy up here today, for instance, is that I was a rowdy little toe rag when I was at school, and they put me in plays, and I acted, and I stood in front of hundreds of people, and I felt comfy about it. And I'm sure the same is true to you and your professional careers going forward, that the material you've absorbed will make a huge difference. So whether you're a police officer, a nurse, a social worker, a psychologist, whether you work in the voluntary sector or the private sector, you'll need to pick those bits of theory and practice that best work for you. Part of the future professional you will be based on what you've learnt here and what you learnt before. Part of it will be that unique bit of you that you and you alone bring to the party. Part of it you'll make up as you go along. There's nothing wrong with a bit of blagging and a bit of bullshit, folks. Trust me. Honestly, I mean it. You all know that too. And part of it you'll just make up as you go along, and sometimes you'll be just lucky or inspired. But these are all the ingredients of your professional persona that you're developing now, and you are all very different. This institution, Bucks New University, is not a factory. It's more of a garden. It's an experience. It's a nurturing environment where you're helped to learn, open up your minds to new ideas and new experiences so that you can realise your potential. So I'm going to finish off by giving you a few tips and hints, a bit of advice, okay? When I started off in this lark as a social worker, very few of us were qualified. David talked about me being an unqualified social worker, razzling around on my motorbike, getting soaking wet in Richmond. It was much easier to get a job. Ruth talked about that earlier on. In fact, you had bags of choice. More recently, people could always sign up with agencies and know they'd be able to get some work and have a bit of choice and flexibility to move around a bit. I don't think it's quite so straightforward now. Speaking from the perspective of councils, and I think the same applies to other organisations in the public sector for whom you work or with whom you're engaged, money is very tight. Councils like mine and other public sector outfits need and want to cherish a stable, confident and high calibre workforce. Sounds tough, but actually it is a huge opportunity for you all to create successful careers, and you as graduates are highly, highly valued. Don't forget that. You've had excellent preparation here at BNU for the world of work as a qualified professional out there. You've been exposed to theoretical perspectives that are relevant and are useful gadgets and tools to help you understand the professional challenges and to meet them. You've had high quality practical experience, many of you, so you could try things out before you got let loose. My advice is this then, take opportunities, volunteer for things. You don't always have to do it actually, but you always get noticed if you volunteer. Make a real commitment, give it your best shot and show it in your actions. Things can be tough, and it is true that you can make daft decisions in your career and choose the wrong job. I did, and I pulled the ripcord and changed. Transfer all that motivation and application from here into the world of work. Be decisive. If it isn't right for you, like I've said, it's okay for you to say so and change direction. The other thing to remember, I think, is that you're not alone. What I've picked up from your reaction to each other's success today is a huge amount of friendship and camaraderie here. You are all in professions, or at least headed for them, where teamwork, colleagues and networks are crucial. You can't do it all on your own. You'll need to trust and work with other people. If you try to do it all by yourself, you will expire. It's not necessary, it's not expected. By the same token, don't put upon your colleagues, they will suss you out and they will evaporate. The public sector is a hugely rewarding place to work. Yes, we get criticised in the media, but we always deliver, and without us, our country would grind to a halt. The services of my own services, local government, touch everybody's life every day in some way, but they don't always realise it. If we mess up, we generally should take it on the chin, and we do, and sort it out. That's exactly what the public sector does. We fix things when they go wrong. Above all, though, what I'd say to you is to have some fun. It seems to me that you're all a very jolly sort, and you're all supported by some fantastic friends and family. We've got tough, tough jobs, but it's okay to stand back. It's okay to have a laugh. Sometimes the things you find yourself doing are truly absurd, and you wonder why the hell you're doing them. But that's okay. Life's like that. Remember that you work to live. So remember to live. Because your personal experiences, the type of person that you are now and that you will become, coupled with what you've learned here, are all critical elements of your professional success and to you making a difference in your community and to your profession. Make sure that a lot of you shines through in what you do in your work. So finally, to finish off, well done, congratulations. You should all be proud of yourselves. Thank you.